Welcome back. In this video, I want to take a look at the different energy sources that we have available to us while building outposts, and really just how beneficial they are, and which one you should probably look to use as you build out energy sources to power your outposts. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Now, the ones that you are going to be able to start out with right away is going to be the solar array, the base level solar array, the base level windmill, which I do not have here as I do not have it on this planet, but I will take a look at windmills just a little bit later in the video. And then the fueled generator. So these are going to be the base levels of the solar array, the windmill, and the fueled generator without having to put in any skills or any research. Now, the ones that would require research will be the solar dome, the advanced windmill, the reactor, and the advanced reactor. Okay, so we'll take a look at all that. So in order to get access to those advanced energy systems, you want to come to your science tree, outpost engineering, and you want to level up this skill. At rank 1, you can construct improved outpost modules and research additional modules at a research lab. At rank 2, you can research and construct superior outpost modules. At rank 3, you can research and construct cutting-edge outpost modules. At rank 4, you don't get anything new, but it just cuts everything that you would build in your outpost basically in half, which is a big deal if you're building up some of the really cutting-edge outpost modules. Now, once you level up your outpost engineering skill, you want to come to your research lab and come to your outpost development part. And really, this is where you will then do the research after you level up your skill. And you see I really only have one other thing to go to max out my research lab for my outpost development, but you can see that I've gotten all of the power generations complete. At power generation 1, you will get the advanced windmill. At power generation 2, you will get the solar dome. Power generation 3, you will get the reactor. At power generation 4, you will get the advanced reactor. Now, you can also see here on the advanced reactor, you need outpost engineering rank 3 and the special projects rank 1. So is it worth it to level up your skills and put in the research to be able to get higher level energy production? Well, I would say for the most part, no, and I'm going to show you why. So base level solar panels, this is what a lot of these are, is basically producing here 8. We got a production of 8. Now, it's not bad. This is pretty good for a lot of different surfaces of planets and moons. 8 is probably the high end. Okay, now as I look at this solar dome, I have a power production of 16. So this is where I was kind of let down at how much the production is of basically the solar dome. Okay, as you can see, I have 4 of these single solar arrays on the outside here. Basically what I'm trying to kind of show here is just how large of a footprint this solar dome is, because it's basically a 2x2 for just a single solar array. So the solar dome, which produces 16, is actually taking up 4 times as much area as one solar array. But you don't get 4 times as much energy, you only get 2 times as much energy. So this is where the single solar array would be just fine and perfect to use for a good while. I don't think there's really a need to use the solar dome because there's not much benefit from it. There's really not. The only benefit that you get from the solar dome is actually just better resource build requirement efficiency. Okay, you can see the solar array here requires 2 beryllium, 4 aluminum, and 3 copper. Well, if you look at the solar dome, it requires 4 aluminum and then 2 tau grade rheostats. So there is a little bit of resource efficiency there, but to me, it's not really worth it, as the most important part of really just building the outpost is really the limited square footage or the limited area of your entire outpost, and trying to get the maximum number of energy production out of your sources. So that's Well, my take on the solar dome, to me, it's just, it doesn't provide enough power. I mean, the single solar array does just good enough, and 2 of those actually already makes up for how much the entire solar dome actually produces. But here's the other thing, is it just takes up less square footage. So now I can just put it into any kind of little nook and cranny, and I even have over here one of my little towers that has 4 of them actually on top, and I just wanted to kind of show that, because if I even try to put a solar dome on these towers, I can't. There's no possible way to kind of put it on there. I don't know if that's glitch, if you're supposed to be able to or what, but yeah, you kind of can't put it in. It's really easy to get one single solar array on your different outpost towers. So yeah, I'm not really digging the whole solar dome. And if you would look at the reactor, well, the reactor actually produces 30, and that's compared to the solar array that produces 8. But you can see kind of the you know, how the size of the reactor here, well, it's kind of like a 2 by 2.5 roughly. You can say a half. So this takes up, you know, maybe about the size of 5 solar arrays. Now, I get it on certain planets or other planets where you're not getting as much energy out of your solar arrays. It might be more beneficial to go with the reactor, but here's the thing. The reactor cost to research to get to the level of a reactor takes quite a bit of time. Okay, it takes quite a bit of time, and some of those resources are kind of hard to come by. So just not even talking into the skills and research side of it, the different reactor requirements like control rod, nuclear fuel rod. So you can see a lot of the different build requirements aren't just raw resources, they're actually components that you have to get from crafting, which you have to craft those at the workbench, which requires a totally different skill. Okay, but as you're looking at this reactor that produces 30 energy, but one of these solar arrays that produces 8, but I have 4 here, and basically just kind of showing that that's already producing 32, but they don't take up the same amount of space. I can kind of be a little bit more flexible on how I can kind of put around different solar arrays. Now, yes, I get it. If it's on a different planet, you're not getting the same amount of solar production, or the solar array is actually getting like 4 energy production. At that point in time, maybe it is. But you also have a lot more to do, a lot more hoops to kind of jump through to get to the ability to where you can build reactors. You need a lot more of the skills. You got to do the research. You got to have the resources, which actually requires 2 skills kind of to be able to craft the resources to make a reactor. So that's kind of my thoughts on reactors. Like, it's not bad to me. It's just not, it doesn't produce enough, in my opinion. It doesn't really outweigh the cost, because the cost is quite a bit. It's not just like one skill and some resources. Now, one I'm not really able to build, but I do like quite a bit for how efficient it is the advanced reactor. The advanced reactor, you can actually see it has the ability to produce 100 power in the same square footage that the base reactor does. You know, the base reactor has the ability to produce 30. Well, the advanced reactor has the ability to produce 100 in the same kind of area. Now, if you do look at the build requirements, they are substantially higher. A lot of those build requirements are the same materials that you need when you actually research at the research station to be able to just build the advanced reactor. So now you have to go then acquire a lot of these different resources or build and craft these components again. And a lot of these are very hard to come by. And this will also require you to max out your special projects skill as well. Now, as you are looking across many of the different planets, most of us are not going to look at really the kind of atmosphere that many of the planets have, because we don't really care. We're mostly out there when we're trying to build outposts. We're going after resources, most likely, or maybe, you know, some scenic spots. I can understand that. And I've been trying to find some really good scenic spots to build some outposts. But the one thing that you want to know about windmills, I'm going to shift to windmills here for just a sec, is you are looking at atmosphere. If it says thin, you are going to be able to produce the lowest amount a windmill will produce. If you see STD. Basically, this is the standard amount an atmosphere has. So that will be the standard amount of production a windmill will get you. And then looking here at XL3, you actually see an atmosphere with high. I just wanted to kind of show that off. So you got some different levels there. You got weak, standard, high. But if you want to know if you will be able to use wind energy, that is what you want to look for. Your atmosphere stat, and the higher it is, the better your production you're going to get out of windmills. And to be pretty honest, windmills are my preferred energy source. Okay, I want to take a look here at the wind turbines, okay? And this is going to be very similar to the solar panels, but I want to just kind of show off why, you know, the wind turbine advanced is just awful. So I'll put down the wind turbine advanced, and it's providing 14 power on this planet, which not bad. I mean, that's pretty good. But the problem is the area in which it takes up, okay? So you see that circle, or that little bit of a circle kind of around it. Basically, just think about that as an entire circle that goes around it. That is basically, you can't build within an object, right? You can see that warning there. Cannot place item, radius overlaps with an existing object. And this is where, for the size of how much this takes up, it's better to go with the wind turbine, because it doesn't take up nearly as much area in your outpost, and it still provides 6 power. Now, the advanced wind turbine does have better resource requirements, but that's, I mean, if you craft the correct materials to have that kind of thing, then, you know, you can be a little bit more resource efficient. But in doing windmills or wind turbines, basically what I was just doing is I was just kind of making, you know, these little groups of these, you know, basic wind turbines, and it roughly is in the same, you know, the same area. It takes up the same amount of space. So you can kind of see, like, if I can kind of get, yeah, there you go. You can kind of see there that all of that production from the smaller wind turbines is within the zone of the larger, more advanced, you know, wind turbine. So why would I go with the larger, less efficient at producing power wind turbine advanced? Like, there's just no reason to do it. And this is probably my biggest issue with outposts, or there's a lot of issues, but just the energy production side of it doesn't seem like it was clearly thought out and scaled well at all. Because, I mean, you got a wind turbine advanced producing 14 power, but the small wind turbine producing 6. Well, I just need 3 to have more production than the advanced, but within the same area of the wind turbine advanced, I can produce, what, how many is that? 5 there? 6. There's 6 smaller wind turbines here. So, I mean, that's 36 energy in the same area that you produce 14 with the wind turbine advanced. So yeah, the wind turbine, the smaller ones, the basic level wind turbines are just perfectly fine. Now, I'm going to talk very briefly. I'm not really going to demo this as much. The fueled generator. Well, I like them. They produce quite a bit of power of 20, but I don't like them for this big reason. I have to literally give up a resource for my outpost to be able to have access to helium. So if you're going to put down a outpost on helium, then you could, you know, obviously extract that with extractors. You set up some little storage for the output links, and then, you know, you just link your output links from your storage to your generator, right? And, you know, this is where I don't really care for this, because it requires so much area to take up, and that's if you got your different. I'll put down a water vapor extractor here. I know this is going to be pretty crappy, but you would just link your helium extractor here to your storage, and then that's your kind of your production. And like, it's okay, but you're literally giving up a resource by having to put it down on a helium. deposit. Now, another way you can kind of go about it, you could set up one outpost in the system and then set up different cargo links to go to different outposts. But here's the problem. You got to set up a lot of cargo links, not just inside of the outpost that is producing the helium and then linking it to the outpost where you want to maybe use the helium, right? Because you can only set up one cargo link to one outpost. So outpost A would have a cargo link, outpost B would have a cargo link, and that kind of thing. Now, the only time where I would actually say using helium, if you're going to do a cargo link inter-system. Now, this is the ones that go outside of the solar system in which you are in. These ones, I would definitely, you're going to have helium. I would build helium outposts, and maybe you power it with your fuel generator so that you can build up a lot of energy using those, and then you power your cargo link intersystem with also the helium production that you were making from that outpost. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of manage the helium, but as far as a good source for using the fuel generator for your outpost, I don't like it. I just don't. It takes up too much, kind of space, because you got to set up not just extractors, but you also got to set up, storage. You got to set up generators, but then you're losing out on a resource that you could be extracting and using, solar or wind power to extract from that outpost as well. To me, I don't know. It is perfectly fine to just use wind turbine and the solar array for just about every aspect of your outpost until maybe you start to get to like advanced reactor type of range. I would not at all worry about wind turbine advanced, because you have the wind turbine. It's, and I wouldn't worry about the solar dome because you got the solar array. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that. The fuel generator does provide quite a bit of power, but you do have to have helium, and I don't know, to me it's not really worth it. Like the solar array does just fine, or the planets where you can have access to wind turbine, they work just fine. Reactor, unless you're on a planet that really is getting no solar and no wind, maybe the reactor, but the requirements to get to the reactor level with outpost engineering and special projects skill, and then that's not even talking about the requirements needed at the research lab. But the reactor advanced, that's kind of tempting. So if you're really trying to optimize some things, reactor advanced, I think reactor advanced is going to be a really good one, once you kind of get to that level. But man, for a lot of the early and mid game, there is no need at all to deviate away from wind turbine and the solar arrays at all. I would just stick to it. Don't worry about it. You don't really need to rush the skills and the resources and the research to get access to a lot of the other stuff, because it's not even good. It's just not even good. So anyways, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Hopefully this is beneficial for you. This definitely took some time to kind of get all this unlocked. But yeah, there's no need for the solar dome, the wind turbine advanced, because the low level ones are just perfectly fine. The helium one, I'm not really all about the helium, just because you have to manage the helium, or the fuel generators, because you got to manage the helium. The reactor, not really a big deal about it. Just kind of depends on if you can get enough solar or wind production. If you can, then they're definitely not worth it. But if you're on a planet where there's no wind and the solar production is so low, there's certain planets where like solar production on the solar array is like 2 or 4. Maybe at that point in time, maybe you look at the reactor, but you still have to put in the skills. You still got to put in the research, and then you got to have the resources. So it does take quite a bit. But yeah, for the most part, just stick to the solar array, wind turbine for a good while. The one that I would say is worth it kind of towards the end is going to be the reactor advance. But that would be where they need to really fine tune or retune maybe the solar dome, wind turbine advance, and probably even the reactor and fuel generator. So anyways, hopefully this was helpful for you, and yeah, not really a need to really spend the time. And I'm sure many people will just get there eventually. But yep, hopefully this is helpful for you. Alrighty, take care.